Hi, welcome to Directions. I'm Jay West, your host, and it's good to have you here. Directions is all about course changes in our life, good or bad, that push us to trust and push us to make changes, and how we handle it, and how we respond, and how people view us, and what kind of influence we have because of the changes. And so my special guest today is Lacey Brown, otherwise known as Downtown Lacey Brown.
Hi, Jay.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Lacey is my State Farm agent, and I'm not embarrassed to say that, or, I like to publicize her work. She's in Ralston here in the area, and just outstanding. I had been wanting a new State Farm agent for like 15 years. And everyone I interviewed some, and they just didn't seem to be the right. And I thought, well, I'm not going to change from bad to mediocre. That wasn't going to, it's not that they're all bad, but the ones I encountered were like, disinterested or whatever. And a friend of mine invited me to a Bible study, and Lacey was there, and I met her, and I listened to her talk, and I went back. I actually taught at the Bible study a couple of times. And she was there a few more times, and I thought, and she's a believer, and I thought, this is the person I need to be my State Farm agent. And so that's how that happened. Is that correct?
It is very correct.
So that would have been 2021, and this is 2025. So I don't know exactly when I switched over, but so I've been with you about at least 3.5 years now. So
yeah, we've both gone through a lot of life changes.
We have.
Time.
Yeah, and so part of her life changes is what we're going to talk about today.
Awesome.
So, and she's very willing, and she wasn't, I'll just be real honest. I had another guest planned to come in, and he got a really bad cold and wasn't able to come. And so I put out some text messages to people. I was going through my phone. I think I sent 5, and 3 responded, and you were the one that said, I can be there. So,
woohoo. So
anyway, beautiful blue dress with our blue background. It fits right in. So tell us about, let's start with State Farm. Tell us how I know your mom's an agent where, in Montana or Idaho?
In Montana.
Okay.
Yep. She is the #1 agent in Montana.
And I had a good agent in Houston. He was actually in our wedding to Rebecca. He came up. He was one of the groomsmen in our wedding. He was here.
Okay.
And so you had good influence from your mom. Tell us more about her.
Yep. She is also a believer, and she has ran her agency for 40 plus years now. My dad and her kind of built it up together, and he has since retired and works super actively in the church now. Always has, but even more so. And part of it is he's supporting her. She's got stage 4 cancer, and still runs a very successful agency. But her motto is keep on the sunny side all the time and let the Holy Spirit so she is very thankful that as her cancer continues to spread, she's not in a lot of pain.
Now remind me, what part of Montana is she? Where, like the only big city I know is Billings. So where is she in relation to that? On the other side of the state?
About 3.5 hours northwest of Billings. Okay. So where I grew up in Great Falls, Montana is about 3 hours south of the Canadian border.
So I'll be in Montana this summer.
Okay.
I'm going to be in the Cheyenne Reservation ministering.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm not I know that's near Billings, somewhere within an hour and a half. So that's where I'll be this summer. Yeah, we were just actually talking to the leader there last night. So
awesome.
That's partly why I was asking. Okay, so your mom's battling stage 4 cancer. Well, we could just talk about that one too, but let's stay on track. How did her influence, what were you doing before you became a State Farm agent?
So I was a military officer's wife, and we moved every 2 to 3 years. And so it never made sense, even though I had my college degree, to start a career, because we kept having children and moving every 2 to 3 years. So I was privileged enough to stay home for basically 10, 12 years and raise those kiddos. I did run my household like a business. We were very organized.
Did you homeschool at all?
I did not.
Okay.
Homeschooling is, I love my homeschool friends who homeschool. I adore them, and I applaud and respect them. That is not something that the Lord has ever put on my heart, Jay.
All right, no problem. Well, I just thought I'd ask. So you're running it.
It's a good question.
Okay, and how long have you been in Omaha?
I have been here since 2015.
Okay.
And the military brought us here in 2015. And I came over the border when I was house hunting in that spring of 2015. I came up from Louisiana. We were stationed there. And came across the border from Iowa to Nebraska. And there was the most sense of peace I've ever felt driving into a place, even more so than any beautiful Hawaii vacation or anything else. And the Lord's like, you're home. And I'm like, what? And here I am, and I plan on never leaving. I like to travel, but plan on never leaving here as far as this being my
And
home base.
we had a similar thing. We came here in 2000. I'm here 25 years now, sense of peace, and this is where we
Yep.
belong. Now, I do anticipate we'll be in DC at some point, but right now we're still here, and a lot of ups and downs, but
Yeah.
and you've had some ups and downs. You want to share any of them?
Well,
not?
I don't mind sharing.
Okay.
You ask me anything you want. I don't know what
Okay.
you would like me to share, but as you know, I'm pretty transparent about my story, and I don't mind sharing it in front of the camera.
So you started this business. You're also a single parent. Let's stay on the business for a little bit. How did you develop a business from scratch?
So I did kind of develop it from scratch, but one of the things that I was privileged enough to do was take over part of a retiring agent's book of business. And he was a solid State Farm agent. And so I actually took over the space that he was in downtown Ralston, and also took over a huge part of his clients. So it was very nice to be able to come in and already have some clients that had a great State Farm relationship. And then from there, just my natural network. You and I are both very similar in this, that we love people and we like
Right.
to talk to people.
Right.
I love all of my clients, from the smallest client to the largest. And obviously some of them buy more groceries than others for me, but I started with that home base and then was able to grow from there. The pandemic hit right after I opened. And so that completely derailed my whole business plan. I had events planned and going out in the public and doing all this stuff. So we had to go, it pushed us online, which in the long run has been extremely helpful, because online marketing is quite a bit cheaper than continually being out and about all the time and going to all these events. So, yeah.
Right. So your statement earlier was, I have this degree from college in business,
In business, yep.
but never starting anything because every 2 or 3 years you're moving in the military.
Right.
Now you are starting a business because something else shifted in your life.
Yep. So my now ex-husband and I separated in 2019, and that was right around that same time I was given the opportunity, after lots and lots of prayer, to have this opportunity with State Farm. And so I don't know if you've ever, the guy that was on before me, I was listening to the end of his interview, and he was talking about people struggling, with career. I was actually headed to the Creighton Accelerated Nursing Program.
Okay.
And I had gotten accepted. I had done some prereqs on top of my business degree. And I was excited to be accepted. I was like, I'm going to go into the nursing field. And because I've always loved nutrition and fitness and just, the health world. And the Lord just it was like I got in, but it was like I was running into roadblocks with my kids. Like, how am I going to be a good mom during this program? How am I going to be a good mom when I don't know what my nursing schedule, like all these different things. And all of a sudden I had a friend say to me, well, why not try the State Farm thing? That's what your mom did. And I thought, well, start a business? Are you kidding me? You want me to start a business? Well, yeah, why not? Like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? And so I started praying about it, and I took the initial test with State Farm, and it was like, Jay, I can't tell you. The doors kept swinging open faster than I could sprint to them. Like, every time I think about it, I get teary-eyed, because it was like the Lord was like, no, this is what we're going to do. I couldn't have even said no had I wanted to. So that was
my
a
friend,
huge
I
blessing.
mentioned my friend Sid Smith, who was in our wedding
Yeah.
with me and Rebecca, was my State Farm agent in Texas for multiple years. And I told him I was getting a new agent here, and he was able to look you up somehow through the State Farm stuff. And he kept, every time he'd write, he'd say, man, she's doing this and she's doing that, and she has this and she has this award. And he was like really impressed with you. Okay.
Yes, Jay, that's what I like to do.
But he was down in Texas. Okay. But he could research, and that was affirming to me, because again, I had been looking for 15 years for a new State Farm agent. I was not going to quit State Farm because I didn't like the agent. I would go into my agency, and I won't say it whose, for 5, 6, 7 years. Every time I go in, he said, no, tell me your name again. He didn't even know my name. And I'm like, I'm a client. I literally told him one day, I said, I've been a client of yours now for 5 or 6 years. You should know my name, okay? That should be an easy one,
Right?
And
Jay,
yeah,
it's pretty
yeah,
simple.
pretty simple.
Right.
So you have, now I'm learning, you have 3 directional changes at once.
Yeah.
You're looking at nursing, you're looking at business, and you're becoming a single parent.
Yep.
Okay, so how do you navigate any one of those would be a challenge. Okay, how do you navigate all of that at once?
Well, first and foremost, and I don't want to sound cliche, but there is no way on literally God's green earth that I would have been able to do it without him. I it was a matter of prayer and surrounding myself with some amazing people. God put people in my life at particular moments that had he not done that, there's just no way. I was surrounded by some very, very strong, smart females, some strong men who to this day are my brothers. I'm friends with their wives. Like they are literally my non-biological brothers that have helped me through all of this. And then in the same context, I realized my mom has a saying. She says, do what you do best and hire to the rest. So I knew I'm not going to, if I want, I'm very particular about how I keep my house. I was going to have to hire somebody to help me with that. I was going to have to hire somebody to help me drive my kids around. I was going to have to hire somebody to answer my phones at the office and to help me sell and to help me service my book. So there's been places where I have taken maybe a pay cut on things or maybe not had as much because I knew if I'm going to survive mentally, spiritually, physically, all the things, I'm going to have to hire people to help. So I have done that. And it brings tears to my eyes every time I think about it. I have the best team around me in my personal life and my professional life. As a matter of fact, I had a gal that she's in her early 20s and she has a full-time job, but she loves to organize. And I was praying one day, like, Lord, I need some organization done and I don't have time to do it. And so I thought her name's Jocelyn, and she's actually at my house this morning doing some organizing. She does it for me about every 3 to 4 months. Mm-hmm. So again, praying about it, like, Lord, I need some help here. And I need to stay sane and spiritually healthy. And I'm going to have some.
So I'm going to go back to you said, do what you do best and hire to the rest. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's very similar to what I've told pastors when they're looking for staff at churches. I say, hire to your vision, mm-hmm. but also hire to your weakness. Mm-hmm. Okay, things you don't like to do. Make sure they know your vision so they can run with it, but then have them do things that you don't like doing at all.
Correct.
So it's a very similar thing, except yours rhymes.
Right.
Say it again. I want everybody to hear it.
Do what you do best and hire to the rest.
Okay, so what if you can't afford to hire to the rest?
Oh, Lord, have mercy. That's a good question. That's the thing. I think that my income has grown, obviously, throughout I just finished my 5th year in business, and my income the Lord has continued to give me increase in that area. Without him, I'm dumbfounded sometimes. I'm like, how is this even... I just have always tried to do business ethically and morally, and sure. I love people. And it seems that the Lord blesses that. But with that being said, I feel like there's people out there where you can figure it out, maybe even a bartering of services. There's times like I can't barter insurance. I'm also, I do investments as well for people. I'm a financial advisor now. So insurance and financials, I can't barter those services, right? But maybe I can offer to watch somebody's kid for them while they clean my house this day. Like I'll give you and your husband a date night on a Friday night and you'll clean my house on a Friday afternoon. Things like that. Okay. There's times when I've done stuff like that in the past. Okay. I'm so thankful I don't have to do that now. I don't like watching other people's kids very much. But I think you can get creative, and I think God will give you those creative ideas
it's one thing
if
to be
you
friends
ask him.
With families and kids, that quite another to babysit them when they right. something else is going on, and you meet that strong-willed child.
Yes.
And who doesn't want to cooperate. So you do some innovative things to promote your business too. One of them is your little smart car.
I do. It's sitting outside the studio right now.
Okay. Uh-huh. So maybe you can send a picture to me, or maybe we'll take one and we'll put it on the screen so everybody can see your little smart car, because it's not just, tell us about your smart car and why you got it and how you acquired it.
Well, people tell me I'm creative. I'm really good at taking things that I think are great and work and copying that idea. So my mom actually had for 20 years, had 2 smart cars in Great Falls, Montana. Okay. Scares my dad half to death, but he did some research quite a while ago, and I guess it's built on a steel cage, so it's actually pretty safe in a rollover. Okay. At least that's what I like to tell myself.
I always think they may be safe in a roller. I'm not so sure how safe they are around a semi-truck.
Yeah, crunched in the middle of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's my moving billboard. Purchased that up in a little town in Iowa and slapped my face on the side of it. And It is fabulous marketing. It gets a lot of attention, which is the point. It's obnoxious. I always have my roofing referral partners say, we're going to throw that thing in the back of our roofing truck and take some marketing videos. I said, you do whatever you need to. But yeah, it's a moving billboard and relatively inexpensive. I've had it now this is going on the 6th year, and
I've told a lot of businesses who are really, really good in their business, and maybe it's just a single proprietor, like a carpenter or electrician or whatever. I said, get one of these magnetic signs and put it on the side of your truck.
Yeah.
So people know your number and everything else. Literally, a truck drove by me about a year ago. I was looking for an electrician, and he had this tiny little diamond on the back of his truck. It was so small, but I could read it. So he was stopped at a stoplight right by him. It has scripture verse in the diamond.
Oh, I love it.
And so I took a picture of it with my phone, and his phone number was embedded in the middle, which I didn't see. Then I called him and I hired him, and he was outstanding. He was a former pastor, now turned electrician, very honest, ethical. Prices were good too, but he had this little logo, and if he hadn't had the logo, I would never have met him.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's so good to hear.
So don't worry about what other people think.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I don't in ministry. I don't care what other people think. I care about what God thinks.
Amen.
But I don't really care what the audience thinks. You know, if I'm doing what he asked me to do, it's not that I'm uncaring. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But because I'm there to meet your needs and help and everything else. But simultaneously, it's like promotion is, expanding your ministry, your business, so that you can be more effective in ministry, so you can help people and do more.
Yeah.
So yeah. In fact, I was at a funeral yesterday, and one of the quotes was from Mark Twain, and it says, kindness, I forget exactly how it goes, but kindness can be easily interpreted by a deaf person and a blind person.
Yeah.
Okay? And they know if you're kind, even though they can't hear it and they can't see it.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
so,
absolutely.
So, okay, you're doing your business. How does that translate? Because obviously when you start a business, you are super, super busy.
Yes.
Okay? And I'm sure you had to take some State Farm courses.
Oh, yeah.
And certification things and everything else. So how are you able to take care of your kids? First of all, how many kids do you have?
I have 4.
Okay.
That are now almost 17. He'll be 17 in a couple weeks. 15, 12, and 10.
How old were they then?
Oh, much younger.
Five
yeah,
years younger.
12, 10, 7, and 4, 5, 4. 4 when their dad and I, the youngest was 4 when we separated. Okay. So yeah, 5 when I opened.
How, if you can share, how did they respond when you guys separated? How was it?
Well, I want to be very careful. So if one day they see this, there are times in your life when I was that person that never thought divorce would be in my future. I very much believe in you get through anything together. And the 80-20 rule, right? Your partner's going to have 80% of hopefully what you need and want, and 20% is out there left maybe that God can help you take care of. But they responded actually fairly well. And I think it was just, there was so much for so many years tension in our house, and so much stress that when their dad and I, they all 4, all my ex-husband's and I's kids, when we separated, it was like a cloud came off of our household, and the Lord, they became a much calmer children. Now he doesn't live here. He actually works out of DC, and I think we'd be in a really good spot to where if he moved back, we could co-parent together, and that would be an ideal situation. But he continues to live out there. He has a lot of family out there. That's where he grew up. So I'm back here just with the kids on my own. And I think they'd like to see their dad more, but when we separated, it was very, very good for them.
As I recall, and correct me if I'm wrong, you don't have to go into the details.
No, it's fine.
Wasn't there an addiction problem with him as well?
There was.
Part of the issue? Yes,
there was. There was a spiritual issue going on for sure. That I had tried to help him get through for years and years. So, and I don't want to go into details on
and
that.
I don't want
just
you to.
For the sake of his privacy. But,
right.
so.
So you have that. So the point is, there's all this stuff going on in your life.
Yep.
And you're making major directional changes at once, a whole bunch of them.
Major.
You're looking at nursing. You're looking at a job. You're separated. Eventually, you're going to get divorced. You're taking care of 4 kids. You're now dealing with your mom with stage 4 cancer. That's another issue, So you got that worry in the back of your mind, everything else. how do you handle all this? How do you walk through it? How do you navigate it? Do you just curl up in a corner and cry? Do you,
Once in a while,
yeah,
once in a while I do. Um, so I remember years ago, this actually, when she initially was diagnosed with cancer in 2016, it was a huge wake up call for me because I thought my mom was immortal. I knew she wasn't, but I realized that she was more of my rock even than I think Jesus was. And when that foundation, and she went into remission, got it again, went into remission, got it again, and now it doesn't seem like it wants to let go of her body. But I say all that to say that at that point, I was like, I need to figure out what my life purpose is. What is my purpose? And I actually have it tattooed on my hip, my first tattoo ever. And I never thought I would get one. I think my dad is still dismayed that I have one, but it says, always bring the sunshine. And that is what I had decided was my life purpose, was to bring the sunshine everywhere I go. And so when there's moments, I let myself be sad sometimes, or I let myself be mad or upset. But at the end of the day, I feel like I've always been called, even before I came up with this purpose, I've been called a female Barnabas. And you're such an encourager. You're such a cheerleader. My dad would never let me be a cheerleader. I've talked about this before in interviews because they didn't have skirts down to their ankles. But that's always been kind of my thing, is let me encourage, because it makes me feel good, right? Too selfishly, it makes me feel good to encourage people. But so when I get down, I go, all right, it's time to figure out how to encourage somebody else. Because if I'm at least seeking out my life mission, it makes me feel better at the end of the day, right, and helps me pull off this self-focus. Because I could sit there and go, my ex-husband doesn't live here, and maybe we've had some staffing issues this week, just people being out sick and this and that, and the weather's been terrible and the phones have been a little bit dead this week. But instead of focusing on that, it's all right, what can I do today? What do I have control over? I can pray, and I can have a good attitude, and I can go try to bring sunshine, even if it's to the Walmart cashier, right. Which they don't really have those anymore, but one or two. Walmart. You know what I mean, though? Or how can I encourage Jay or that gentleman who was in here before me? What can we do to brighten?
I look at your Facebook page, especially your story page, and you always have multiple things of encouragement, little songs, little jingles, scripture verses, secular stuff, spiritual stuff, a dance, pictures, all sorts of things that are trying to brighten people's day. And I met with a man yesterday. He's going to be on my show too. He works for New York Life, and he literally said to me, he said, I follow your Facebook page every day, but I never say anything. I said, really? He goes, yeah, because you always write something encouraging every day. Even when your wife died, even when you got sick, even when you had a car accident, whatever, he said, you always write something encouraging. And I said, well, that's what I try to do. Even though I'm struggling,
right,
in a personal way, I may be struggling in a very personal way, I still want to put something positive out there.
Right.
And I have a lot of followers like you, but in a different realm. Mm-hmm. And I have people all the time send me notes, say, I love reading your stuff. I never say anything, but it's encouraging to me,
Yeah.
And why not? You understand?
I get it.
Why not? Okay. I have a friend here in town, and you might know them, and they are part of their family member who has an incurable disease with no known treatment.
Yeah.
Okay. So many people are going through so much worse than whatever you and I are experiencing.
Amen to that. Yeah.
And so why not put stuff out that are encouraging, and they encourage people.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
They encourage people, and so. Why not? Okay, how do you encourage your kids? Since we're talking about that.
Oh, that's an interesting one. And actually something that I have been struggling with a little bit lately. They are all at such different ages and different, they're all four very different kids. None of them are at all alike. And they all need different things from me. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I am adamant about is being at all of as many sporting events as I can possibly be at. They're all in sports, or they're active, in their programs, their singing programs at school. So trying not to ever miss that stuff and making it a priority. If my boys saw this right now, my two teenagers, they'd be like, oh, she's lying. I have missed a few wrestling matches this year because I didn't get the schedule inputted into my calendar, and then other things got put on top of it. But I try to get that that in there. And so that's one thing. And then just making sure that, we're worshiping together. And I try to have at least one daily touch point with them, whether it's a text message or whether it's, having a meal with them or whatnot. I sent my almost 17-year-old a text yesterday morning, just a very quick, encouraging message to him, because I'm hard on him. I really am. And he probably deserves it too. But just that daily touch point of at least once a day, I'm something encouraging, or I'm at least reaching out to them, or at least giving them a hug, something where we're
But when you started the business, and maybe it's easier now because you have staff or whatever, but when you started the business, you had to have been putting in really long hours.
I was just telling actually a friend of mine yesterday, I said, there's a fireplace at my office, and I said, that fireplace, he goes, I never knew there was a fireplace in here. I said, yeah. I said, I spent many a nights where I would work until, this was in 2020 and some in 2021, I'd work till 7, 8, 9 at night, and I'd get exhausted, but I wasn't done yet. So I'd go turn on the fireplace, take a nap. I'd get a pillow and a blanket, take a 30-minute nap, and then get up and work some more. And I said, yeah, that fireplace gave me many comforting nights. And it was interesting in 2020 because everything shut down in March of 2020, right? Mm-hmm. So my kids they didn't have to get to school, but they still had work to do. So that was another time they go to, at the time, they all 4 were at Cornerstone Christian in Bellevue. And 2 of them are in public school now, and the other 2 probably will be when they get to high school. But I reached out to the administration. I'm like, I need somebody to work with my kids. I do not have the time to help them get through all their homework. And right. She said, oh, I have a girl. She can't go back to college because of COVID, so she can come tutor your kids. So she did that. And thank God, because I wouldn't have made it.
We literally have 30 seconds left.
Oh gosh, oh no.
I know. Look at this camera. Give a piece of advice on one of those 2 subjects, either one, separation or starting a job. Just encourage the people.
Yes. So I'm Downtown Lacey Brown, and what you should do is just pray about it, set your intentions on what you want, and then go after it wholeheartedly. And what's the worst thing that can happen? The worst thing can happen is that it doesn't work out and you got to try something different, but at least you'll know. And then do what you do best and hire to the rest.
Great answer. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching Directions today. We'll see you next week. God bless you. Bye-bye.